So we were together for 5 years. After 5 years, we ended up getting engaged. A year and a half into our engagement, I was pregnant, and it was a very, very unexpected pregnancy, but it was a great deal for us. We were excited, nevertheless. Our relationship was very hard going into the pregnancy, and 4 months into it, we ended up having a very big argument where I needed to leave the home. I felt unsafe.
When you say unsafe, do you mean physically unsafe, or you just didn't want to be there because it was such a horrible argument?
Mentally and physically unsafe.
Okay, had he ever hit you?
No.
Okay, all right, so go on.
Within our screaming matches, I just felt I needed to leave, and I needed to find space within myself.
Okay.
And within 6 months of my pregnancy, I had a premature baby. That day,
were you separate by the time that you had the premature baby that you were just describing? Were you guys back together again, or you were separated?
We were still together at that point. Okay. I was with a friend within the 4 months, and 2 weeks later, I did reconcile with him, and we were going to continue our relationship.
Okay, all right. So tell me, when you go into labor early, how early?
6 months.
Okay. So had there been any warning signs that there was a problem, or not really?
Not quite. Nothing that we should have been alarmed about.
Okay. So what happens?
They took the baby in an incubator, and she was taken away immediately, and later that evening she passed away.
Okay. And I'm so sorry for your loss. And I am so sorry, sir, for your loss, because I know this has to have been very painful for the two of you. So tell me what happens. How do you end up leaving the hospital? What do they end up? Did they ever let you hold the baby?
No, I didn't want to hold her in that moment. I just felt like I couldn't do it. After the hospital, I was free to leave only a few days after, and so I left with Peter. Mm-hmm. And when we went home, things were not okay. Again, there was so many screaming matches. We were constantly.
What were the screaming matches about now?
Financials. We didn't have a lot of money.
How long after? Okay, you folks decided to cremate the baby, mm-hmm. And who paid for the cremation?
I did.
Okay, and was there some agreement between the two of you that he would pay you back, or pay you half, or do something, or? We
had no agreement regarding the financials of it. We had only agreed on what we were going to do in the moment with the cremains.
The cremation. Okay.
So we left her in an urn, and we hadn't discussed anything further.
Okay. Well, okay. So what happens? How long after did you end up breaking up with the defendant?
2 months after, we got into another screaming match, and I left the home a day later. I left him a note, and I went to my parents back in Virginia, which is where I was born.
Okay. All right. So, and what happened with the baby's remains?
I left her there. I felt that in that moment I couldn't just take her away from him. I didn't think that that was right, so I left her. In the note that I had left, I did say that I did want to have a discussion about it.
And then what happens?
2 weeks after I had initially left and gotten home, 2 weeks I had tried to reach out to him, and every time I tried to reach out, I would get a no call, a blocked number. He blocked me. And the last conversation we had was him threatening to spread our daughter's ashes on his parents' property without my permission.
And you said to him what?
I told him that I didn't want that, and that was not what we had agreed upon.
What had you agreed upon?
We had agreed to just leave her in the urn.
And then who would have the urn?
We did not discuss.
So there had never been a discussion, once you guys were breaking up, that there had not been a post-breakup discussion of what was going to be done?
We did not plan on breaking up.
Yeah, nobody ever does. Nobody ever does. What is his reaction to you getting up and leaving stealthily like that? Because it's not like you sat down and said, we need to break up, this isn't working. You didn't have a face-to-face. You didn't even have a text. You just took off. So what was his reaction? Was he calling you?
No, he actually sent me a text message that had said that he was glad that I had left.
Okay. Let me hear from you on this. Was her leaving a surprise to you?
Absolutely. I was completely blindsided. I came home from work one day to a note, and it was very vague.
What did it say?
It just said, I can't do this anymore. There are still a few things I would like to talk about. But the fact that she took everything of hers, some things of ours, That was a final statement to me, Your Honor.
Okay.
And she had done this before, as she said, that she had left to go to a friend's place for 2 weeks. I didn't know she was going to do that. And so for me, this was just part of a cycle that I didn't feel like was going to end. That for me was the final.
What are you suing for, Ms. Anderson? You're suing for $735 of a flight from Virginia back to Los Angeles in order to address the issue that you had left hanging, right? Like, he didn't make you go to Virginia. Why would he have to pay for you to fly back?
He blocked me. I was trying to get in contact with him so we can discuss what we were going to do with the cremains. I wanted to talk to him and I wanted to reconcile things and figure out if there was something that we could do. We could split her, but at this point I have no idea what he's done with her cremains at all. So I'm...
Where are her cremains right now?
They still remain in the urn.
In the urn. You did not do what you threatened to do. Why did you even threaten to do that?
It was not a threat, Your Honor. I did not mean it to be malicious. It was just something that I had decided to do after hearing the final word from her.
Okay, say that sentence again.
It was something that I decided to do after hearing what I believed was the final word from my ex.
So, in other words, it's exactly what I said, which is kind of punishing and vindictive, because she broke up with you. She left you hanging, like, pretty badly. I think she broke your heart. You didn't think it was that bad. She thought it was that bad, and it added to your misery. And so you said something to her that you probably had no intention of doing without her consent, but you said it in order to trigger her. And that's exactly what you did. It was successful. She flew back. But not to get back with you, right?
It wasn't about that, Your Honor. It was about finality. It was about having closure. And
I understand,
she took
but
these things.
You're not the only one who needs closure. See, you need closure for two things. You need closure for the death of your baby, but you also need closure for the death of this relationship. And she doesn't appear to need that closure for the death of the relationship because she just took off, okay? But she does need closure and deserves closure for the death of her baby. I mean, that's her baby. It was in her body for 6 months.
She gave the closure when she left, and she left the remains there, Your Honor. She took everything that she meant to take.
I want to talk to you about that because I think you feel that she left both you and the baby. And I'm not sure you're right. I think she just left you. I don't think that it is fair for you to think that because she left you, she wants nothing to do with the remains of the baby. You don't really mean that, do you?
At the time, I took that to be her statement on the issue of everything she took. We had the urns. The urn still remains on the mantle in the living room. There was ample opportunity. So instead of being a jerk and taking the urn, she didn't want to do that at that moment. And plus, it's complicated to take an urn on an airplane. Did you fly?
No, no, I drove.
You drove, yeah. Look, folks, here we are. Did she pay for the cremation?
I did, Your Honor.
She did, Your Honor. It was one of those things in the relationship where we had both paid for things. There were things that I paid for in the relationship.
Okay.
This happens to be one of those. But when she says she left me with less than nothing because we were splitting the rent at the time on the place we were living. We were splitting the rent. We were splitting the utilities. I have a copy of the lease agreement.
Is she on the lease also?
She is, Your Honor.
And the lease was going to go on until when?
It was till...
How many more months after she left?
It was till 2 months after she left.
2 more months. And what was your plan on that?
I didn't have a plan at all. I didn't know what I was thinking. I honestly just needed to be with my family.
And that says all you need to know if she makes these impetuous decisions.
Just a second, okay? She's gone through a terrible ordeal just like you went through a terrible ordeal. And people break up. That happens, okay? I don't like how she broke up with you. I don't like it. But, she was a mess. And I presume that you don't like how you did it in retrospect.
No, Your Honor.
Because at some point you loved him. And you wanted to bring a baby into the world with him. So he had a terrible loss too. And then you just taking off and leaving a note? I mean, imagine if someone did that to you, you would feel terrible.
I admit, Your Honor, it was not my best.
No, it wasn't. You might want to apologize. That's a very painful thing that you left him with, and a financial debacle, because now he has to come up with double the rent because you left, because you never sent any rent, right?
No.
Right. So you understand that, right?
I completely understand that. But when I flew back, I tried to speak with him and I wanted to apologize. I wanted to talk to him and see what we were planning on doing if this was something that even possibly could be fixed. But even then, at that point, he was just yelling at me. He was screaming at me. There was nothing that I could say.
What was he yelling? What was he saying when he was yelling?
He said that I didn't care, that I never cared about him, that I didn't care about the cremains, that I left, and that was the decision that I had chose to make, and I need to live with it.
Yeah, no. No, that's just not the law, okay? Those cremains belong to both of you. You're both the parents of that child, okay? There are people who have absolutely no problem splitting up the remains. And there are people that somehow have a psychological problem with that. I think I belong to the first group where I don't have a problem, because I understand that I would understand that the person I loved is just represented in the ashes, right? What is, in a perfect world, what would you want to see happen, Alicia?
I would like to split the cremains.
Okay, and Mr. Williams, Peter, in a perfect world, what would you want to see happen, assuming that you had amicably broken up as opposed to the horrible way she left you?
I would have been open to a dialogue about this.
Well, we're having the dialogue now, and because I've got to, since you guys didn't, I have to. So I want to hear what you think should happen.
I don't believe that I should have to pay any monetary damages.
I don't either. I think that in a relationship, someone picks up this bill, someone picks up that bill. You guys were in a relationship at the time. I don't think she really. I think she just wants half the remains. I don't think that she really wants $2,000-something. Am I reading you correctly? What you want is half of the remains.
Absolutely, yes.
I know. Okay, but he doesn't have to pay for your flight back to a place you chose to leave, and he doesn't have to pay. I don't think that you were, when you said that you paid for it. Is he right that that's like in the, you guys were still dating? It just happens to be that you paid for it. He may have paid for something else, and that's kind of how it was. Or did you pay for it and he said, "I'll pay you the other half"?
There was no discussion.
No discussion about it, which means that it's not a loan, that he owes you the money. So I'm not going to find that he owes you any money for the cremation. I'm not going to find that he owes you any money for the flight back. I am ordering that the remains be split evenly between the two of you. There is a method for this, because you may not want to do this yourselves, and whatever place did the cremation will do that for you for a price. And that's one way to do it. Everyone has a different reaction to this. This is a representation of your baby. You are entitled to have that memory, and you are also entitled to have that memory. She's entitled to leave a relationship. You're right, you don't owe any monetary damages. But I'm going to ask you guys to stay in the courthouse, and we're going to make some arrangements now so that the ashes are split evenly between the two of you, okay? You two have a shared trauma that no one else understands except the two of you. And it would be nice if at some point in your lives you would be able to talk about it without all the other hurt, if enough time has passed, or once enough time has passed, because no one else is going to understand your loss of this baby the way the two of you, only the two of you on this earth understand that. And you might need each other a little bit. I wish you luck.
I read some psychology books when I was in college, and one of the points that was made in the book, that sometimes parents cannot get over the loss of a child and they split up. It's just better for them to go separate ways than face this trauma together, if it makes sense. I feel Judge Millian was fair in her decision to split the ashes between two parents, but what do you guys think? Please leave it to me in the comments below, and thank you for watching.